Hanging with Mr. Douglas, yeah, hanging. What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Thanks for hanging. Welcome to another episode of Hanging with Mr. Douglas, who is me. Today, I am very interested in discussing a really cool article I found this morning, although I don't know when I'm going to post this, but the morning that I'm making this, I found an article, a Substack article on X from this dude named Sayerji, Sayerji. Definitely recommend you check it out because it's a very good article. It's all about hair. Hair. Hair, yes, hair as a living electromagnetic tissue, not just a kind of dead keratin artifact of our body. I am excited to get into it. I'm going to pull up some windows here, so hang tight with me. But I'm going to read a little bit of it. I'll leave a link to the Substack in the description. And I'll read a little bit of it just because his writing's great, but I'll summarize the rest. It's an in-depth article on some new science looking into how hair behaves on an electromagnetic level and the kind of subtle sensory inputs and outputs it actually has when interfacing with our local environment. It's really cool. So, un momento while I pull up the pieces of the documents that I have prepared. Okay, so we begin with a little bit of a summary. And like before I even go into this, I don't know about you, but I've heard that story. I'm sure other people have told me this story every time they look at my long hair. Speaking of which, let's see. Let's see what this sucker looks like. In honor of long hair discussion. Yes, look at that. Man, I love it. I can't believe it's long hair. Wow. So anyway, everybody's heard this story, right? This story about how in World War II, the U.S. Army brought on Native Americans and were amazed by their ability to sense enemy combatant movement far away. They could sense conflict, movement. They could sense stuff basically far enough away where it would give the U.S. military an advantage. So they brought them into the military like, this is going to be awesome, man, we got something to flex. They shaved their heads and all their ability disappeared. Well, this article tells a different story about the Vietnam War, where basically it's the same thing. They brought on some native Vietnamese. They were amazing at sensing movement and tracking environmental shifts throughout the jungle, like miles away, right? Superhuman for all intents and purposes. So they were like, cool, come on in, shave your hair, power's gone. And this article begins by introducing long hair stories and relations to these kinds of superpowers throughout history. You know, across the world, we are familiar with indigenous trackers, Hindu sages, biblical figures, Samson, and their long hair being associated with strength and intuition and heightened perception. There are now, as he cites in this article, modern electromagnetic studies that give possible biological insight into what these stories represented and why they may have persisted for so long. But there are some global cultural traditions around hair. Indigenous cultures often view hair as part of vitality and intuition. We have Samson had super strong hair. Delilah cut his hair off. He lost his strength. The vril, apparently, or vril energy in European esotericism. I'm familiar with the mentions of the vril energy in the Thule Society, or Thule, who definitely interacted with Nazis, if not had a part in forming them. But the vril in European esotericism linked this life force in concentrated uncut hair, or it would concentrate in uncut hair. Basically, you had uncut long hair, and you would have a kind of accretion of vril, of the force in your hair. Hindu rishis coil their long hair for clarity and sensitivity, and Sikhs and Sufis practice and maintain unshorn hair for vitality. Check it. And these traditions might encode empirical observations rather than just metaphors. So, okay, and this is where I want to read from the article because his writing is good. Hair as a living electromagnetic tissue. Contrary to common belief, hair is not simply dead keratin. Beneath the skin, the follicle is a complex mini organ containing more than 20 specialized cell types, stem cells, melanocytes, or melanocytes, immune cells, mechanoreceptors, vascular networks, a dense neural innervation. And I looked up innervation. Innervation is a rich kind of intercommunication of the hair follicle with sensory nerve fibers. And like it's this it's to me, and I'll pull up a picture or two, but it's like a mycelial network in your skin with your hair. There seems to be a lot of communication going on with your hair underneath your skin. It's pretty awesome. Among these, the follicular stem cell populations are especially remarkable. They possess pluripotency potential, meaning that they can differentiate into multiple tissue types beyond hair itself. In regenerative biology, such pluripotent niches are recognized as dynamic signaling hubs. These are structures that sense and respond to and influence their local environment. In the context of perception, this pluripotency implies that the follicle is not a passive appendage factory, but an active regulatory and sensory interface capable of remodeling itself, communicating with the nervous system, and participating in broader bioelectromagnetic signaling processes throughout the skin. So it's not just the hair on your head. If you're a hairy dude like I am, it's a benefit. Surprise, surprise. Maybe not visually, but beyond the visual spectrum, it's a plus. Keep in mind that every time you cut your hair, it requires further tapping the regenerative potential of these stem cells, diverting life energy towards replacing the hair versus other differentiation pathways that could replenish and restore damaged, devitalized, or diseased tissue elsewhere in the body, like the heart, the brain, the skin, etc. And I'm going to show you this picture here in the article. It's cool because the base of the hair follicle, the root, looks strikingly similar to certain depictions of the pineal gland. Almost kind of like a cross between a raspberry and a pine cone. It's very, judge for yourself, but I think it's pretty fascinating. The follicle's metabolism involves active electron transport, the article continues. Wherever electrons move, electromagnetic fields are produced. MB's research, this is the dude, the researcher and scientist that this article mainly cites. MB's research documents these fields directly, these electromagnetic fields, using a simple microscope setup with tiny iron particles mixed into a Prussian blue solution. And that just sounds like a cool band name. We are Prussian blue. I will definitely show you a picture of Prussian blue. It's a super deep blue powder used in medical emergencies, actually. And it's used to actually isolate radioactive isotopes in the body and sequester them so that the body doesn't reabsorb them, among making kick-ass blue pigments in paintings and stuff. But pretty awesome. So anyway, he used the Prussian blue solution with iron particles in water. MB was able to see these magnetic fields, or the results of the magnetic fields coming off living hair follicles. What he found was surprising. The magnetic field comes off mostly on one side, not evenly all around, but like like a sonic boom or a sickle or a boomerang. It forms circulating vortex-like patterns, like a tiny whirlpool of magnetism, which makes sense. It can pull or move nearby iron particles because they're paramagnetic, attracted to these magnetic fields. And it's strong enough to reach through glass up to 3 millimeters thick, which means this is not inconsequential. This is not metaphor or speculation. These are recorded electromagnetic phenomena occurring in real time. So when hair follicles are exposed to specific wavelengths, like green laser light, they emit electron trails, visible electron trails. Your hair is like going to a rave with green laser light, and occasional micro flashes of light are produced. These biophotonic emissions correspond to wave interactions and the displacement of electrons, clear signatures of electromagnetic activity. Another striking piece of evidence comes from the way crystals form during Emby's experience. As the water in the iron-containing solution dries around a hair follicle, you can actually see rings of crystals spreading outward in neat half-circle waves. These patterns act like magnetic fingerprints on the follicle's field. They expand as they move away from the hair, exactly the kind of spreading you'd expect if an electromagnetic field were radiating outward. Like your aura, the pattern disappears entirely when the follicle's metabolically active base, the derma papilla, is removed. When your hair follicles going to sleep. Taken together, these findings support the view of hair as an active bioelectromagnetic emitter, not as an inert structure. He goes on, materials respond to hair's fields. One of Emby's most intriguing findings is a consistent backward suction phenomena during crystallization. As the paramagnetic crystals form, they move toward the follicle against ordinary diffusion gradients. This suggests that living tissue fields can influence matter organization. Let me say that again. It suggests that living tissue fields can influence matter organization. I don't know if my hand motions are emphasizing enough. Not through mystical force, though still, it's nice to call your hair mystical, but through classical electromagnetic attraction and repulsion. This is science, baby. Emby also found something even more surprising when he placed a cut piece of hair in front of a living follicle. The cut piece picked up the same crystallization pattern as the living follicle, even though the two weren't touching at all. It was as if the follicle's electromagnetic signature jumped across the gap and imprinted itself on the detached hair. Emby explains this using standard electromagnetic principles, but the effect definitely hints at a kind of non-classical, non-Hertzian communication happening between biological tissues, a phenomenon that deserves much deeper investigation. That to me is a simple example of picking up someone's vibes. And if you vibe with that vibe that's coming from someone else, you too will begin to vibe like that someone. Similarly, multi-species experiments reveal that plant trichromes, marijuana, ant antennae, mosquito larvae, and human follicles all express detectable electromagnetic profiles that interact through the Lorentz force. I looked that up too. I was like, what's a Lorentz force? Described by the equation F equals Q parenthesis E plus V times B end parenthesis. And I'll post this here if I won't bore you. But it's pretty cool. It explains how moving charges are affected by electromagnetic fields, resulting in forces perpendicular to both velocity, the V, and the magnetic field, B. This force causes charged particles to move in circular or helical paths in magnetic fields, like he was talking about, the wave patterns, and is fundamental to electric motors, speakers, and particle accelerators. In other words, it's a known equation, a known kind of way of magnetic movement, and is now measured in your hair. It's pretty cool. The sensory function of hair. If hair emits electromagnetic fields, if it emits electromagnetic fields, it is equally important that it receives them. Hair shafts are composed of keratin and piezoelectric material. When, quartz crystal, when it's under incredible force, pressure, it will emit an electrical charge. When mechanically stressed by air movement, vibration, or touch, keratin generates an electrical charge, much like a quartz crystal. Did you ever get those radio kits when you were a kid where you can make a radio out of a rock? That's what that is. It uses the piezoelectric effect to create an electrical charge to make a radio go. It's still used in microphones and stuff today. Melanin within the shaft acts as a broadband semiconductor capable of absorbing photons and converting them into electrons or heat. This combination means hair can do several things at once. And this is where it gets real interesting here. Hair is a mechanical sensor. It can pick up tiny movements like changes in airflow, vibration, or touch, and send that information to the nervous system. Think of how when a small breeze on your arm gets the hair on your arm's attention, you get a little goose pimples. Or whenever you're sitting a little close to somebody and perhaps you can feel the level of body heat emission coming from them, or the lack of which, and your hair picks that up. Hair is also a photonic sensor. So because melanin absorbs light across a wide spectrum, hair can respond to light energy. In other words, hair isn't blind. It interacts with light far more than people realize. Hair is an electrical transducer. Hair can convert one form of energy into another, such as turning mechanical movement into electrical signals. And this is due to keratin's piezoelectric. Piezoelectric. I always want to say piezoelectric. Piezoelectric properties, similar to certain crystals used in sensors and microphones, like I was saying before. Hair is also a dielectric waveguide. The structure of the hair shaft can channel electromagnetic fields along its length, guiding energy the way a fiber optic cable guides light. And this is what allows hair to act like a tiny antenna. Every follicle is surrounded by mechanoreceptors, and nerve fibers that relay signals to the central nervous system. When hair moves, the follicle senses it. When the follicle emits electromagnetic activity, nearby tissues detect it. EM emissions from hair can influence blood coagulation, microenvironments, and even alter the behavior of nearby cells. Definitely want your hair to feel those good vibes. This contributes to a more nuanced view of hair as a part of the somatosensory apparatus. Provides subtle environmental information, air currents, electrical gradients, temperature fluctuations, that the nervous system can then assimilate, integrate, and turn into usable information. This also reframes the cultural practices of uncut hair. Length increases interaction with environmental fields. It extends the piezoelectric surface area and enhances mechanical leverage on follicular sensors. Long hair may simply give the nervous system more data. So he goes on to discuss how Emby's experiments reveal that the follicle's electromagnetic profile changes with alcohol exposure, how that field can become erratic, then gradually recovers. Sounds like a night out of drinking. Dehydration affects it, aging, magnetic signatures diminish and become disordered. Cellular stress, nutrient status, these all affect hair's performance. And to continue on, just to summarize the rest of it, crystallization experiments with hair and mapping hair's electromagnetic fields. As water dried around hair follicles, the half-circle wave crystal patterns appear. You can see the emanation of the output of the magnetic field that hair is doing, and how these rings of magnetic field representation show the follicle's electromagnetic signature, and removing the follicle's base eliminates the pattern entirely. Rough news for those who are running thin or bald. But it indicates that the field originates in living metabolically active tissue. So I don't know. I mean, there might be a way to recover. Materials that respond to hair's fields, and this was interesting. This is the backward suction effect. So we had the hair emitting information, but it also pulls paramagnetic crystals toward the follicle. Basically, the field is receiving and asking for information from its local environment. It suggests that matter is organized by biological electromagnetic fields. I mean, the subtle interaction of your hair's electromagnetic field is actually organizing the local environment around you on a real small level, but measurable, which, to me means significant. And, layman's terms, if you're feeling good, if you're on a high vibe, if you are enjoying yourself in the moment, that is actually passing through your hair and informing and shaping, organizing the local environment around you, almost creating a bubble of good times around your local area. Long hair, baby. A cut hairpiece can receive the same crystallization pattern from a nearby live follicle with no physical contact. Just another example of how we are interacting on non-physical levels all the time with significance. Hair as a sensory organ, I mean, we went into this, but keratin is piezoelectric. Melanin has the broadband semiconductor absorbing photons. Like, it's talking to light. It's feeling the light and going, ooh, that's nice, or hey, where'd it all go? And this was neat. I mean, I'd first heard about people wanting to collect celebrities' hair that would fall off, and celebrities would be super paranoid about this. I heard this Madonna story, basically. Everywhere she stays, I don't know if this is true, but the story is that everywhere Madonna stays when she's on tour, she has a whole team that when she leaves the hotel room, scrubs it super clean so none of her hair or any biological material is left so that she can't be compromised or cloned. Again, fringe story. Interesting though, because there is a role of DNA in the hair's electromagnetic properties. The hair's follicles contain DNA, and remnants of it remain in the shaft. DNA is theorized to act as a helical electromagnetic transceiver. DNA may actually be a real subtle back and forth electromagnetic converser with our environment. DNA emits and receives ultra-weak biophoton signals. This has been proven, and we emit very low, though under certain circumstances, visible biophotonic light. Helical geometry is ideal for longitudinal scalar wave coupling. None of this has been heavily tested, though. This is just pushing out and discussing initial findings. And that hair may, in fact, inherit electromagnetic properties from DNA-based cellular oscillations. So hair may be an indicator of how your DNA is doing, or how your DNA is responding to your interior and exterior environment. And then, again, pushing even further out, the scalar and longitudinal wave theories offer one possible framework for interpreting hair's unusual electromagnetic behaviors, but these ideas are very speculative right now. Hair as an organ, a rediscovered interface. Basically, hair, with all this information, all this evidence, can now be reframed as a sensory organ, a bioelectromagnetic emitter and receiver, an internal and external communication system, and that ancient hair practices actually are referencing this empirical knowledge. Hair's electromagnetic behavior affects perception, coherence, and vitality, and that cutting or growing hair may have effects that are not yet fully understood. Fascinating article. I definitely recommend checking it out if this does interest you. Again, the dude's name is Sayerji, Sayerji. I will link it in the description, like I said. But hey, long hair, take care of your hair. And that, I think, is something I'm going to be looking into. Like, what's good for your hair? What's good for the follicles? Awesome stuff. Stumbled across it and was inspired to discuss it further. But take care of your hair. I will do the best to take care of mine. Thank you for hanging. It's fun. because to me, this information is another kind of ancillary Jenga piece put onto our tower of how we can engage with ourselves and optimize ourselves to expand awareness, take in more information, and begin to ingest, assimilate, and use this information coming in and out through our hair to inform our living reality more in the way that we want to. Manifest your world through your hair. All right. Good times. I love it. Thanks for hanging. We're keeping it going. And I'll catch you on the next one.
Hang on, Mr. Douglas. Yeah.